It's Monday, and a new week in crypto is getting underway. Here with all the top stories to get you up to speed, it's the Coin Bureau News. Ready for Rektember? Investors brace themselves as a traditionally bad month for crypto gets underway. New money incoming. Stablecoins and tokenized treasuries see new all-time highs. Who are the big winners? Ethereum FUD continues. Vitalik catches strays over his comments on DeFi, while the Ethereum Foundation is spotted selling again. Bearish or bullish? Trump projects launch. The presidential candidate drops a new NFT collection and a DeFi protocol in the space of 24 hours. Does he think we're still in 2021? Opensea and the SEC. Everyone's favorite regulator issues yet another crypto company with a Wells notice. Could Gary & Co. finally get a win? And last week's top-performing cryptos, the tweets of the week, dates for your diary, and the best live comments from today's stream. Let the best comment win.
Good afternoon, morning or evening, and welcome to the Coin Bureau weekly news live stream. My name is Nick.
And my name is Guy. Good to see you all. A very happy September to one and all. A very happy Labor Day to those in the United States taking a day off. September is upon us, Nick.
Rektember. Yes. And if last week is anything to go by, this month could be very tough. It's bad for the equity markets, but apparently worse so for crypto.
Okay. I mean, stocks, last I looked, weren't doing too badly, but crypto, on the other hand, is not happy about it.
No, it's not happy, and it's not. And last week was also a pretty bad week for crypto. And this actually leads us to, the first story that we've got here for you guys in terms of from Coinbase. And this was last week. And guys, if you're not subscribed, Coinbase does these weekly research reports, and this was from last week from Weekly Divergence, and it's basically talking about this divergence with crypto and stocks. And what we basically had specifically is relation to the risk-adjusted returns for crypto. So we've got this chart essentially. Now, risk-adjusted returns is an interesting metric because it measures the returns you're getting for each unit of risk. And crypto has historically had, or Bitcoin at least, has historically had a risk-adjusted return more so than equities. Right. But it's recently reversed that trend. And last week, for every unit of risk you take in Bitcoin, you're getting the same amount of returns. And as a result, even the S&P and NASDAQ were offering you better risk-adjusted returns. So this just shows that, even by that metric, Bitcoin isn't performing what it used to in terms of offering you optimal risk-adjusted returns.
Okay. Yeah. So TradFi investors are looking at that and thinking, spot Bitcoin ETFs? Nah, I don't fancy that.
Yeah, exactly. And as a result, you would have seen the outflows that we saw last week in all amounts of ETFs. So the Bitcoin ETFs, we had net outflows of 277 million, ETH net outflows of about 12 million. So the ETFs are facing the outflow. Couple that with the onslaught of supply pressure coming from the likes of Mt. Gox and all the other sellers.
Yes.
It's not looking good for the supply side, obviously, and there's nobody bidding on the demand side. So hence the reason for, the relatively lackluster price action.
It does seem like those things like, Mt. Gox sellers, US government selling, it does seem like, we seem to have kind of parked that and moved past that, but it does seem to be weighing on the market still. I think you can't really discount that as a supply side force. You
can't, because there's still about 40,000 Bitcoin at the Mt. Gox trustee that has to be distributed. It's obviously, it depends if you think they're going to actually sell. Like, there's been a lot of analysis. Will they sell? Have they been selling? But either way, it still weighs in the market. And then there's also the question around, remember about 2 weeks ago, we had the US government, the US Marshal Service, send some Bitcoin to Coinbase custody. So obviously that's potentially also an overhang. Will they sell? So all these factors are impacting on the on Bitcoin markets right now.
Okay.
And it's obviously summer months, obviously low liquidity. This week you've got the US holiday first week, and September just generally it's got this effect in stocks, right? Where and it's now playing off in crypto. And we've actually got a chart as well, if you guys want to pull that up, of for the past 11 years. So this chart basically maps the past 11 years and the monthly return in those 11 years. And as you'll see there in September, it's only been 3 months in the past 11 years.
Yeah, 3 out of the last 11 Septembers have been positive this is for Bitcoin.
This is for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the most positive month, I think, was 6% or something like that. So, past performance isn't a predictor of future returns, obviously, as always. And this month, of course, we've got something else with the Fed pivot, so it's obviously the beginning of the loosening policy, which could potentially be a harbinger of potential liquidity. But then again, it depends on how big the discount is and how much the cut will be. Current market pricing is about 25 basis points, but he could surprise he could surprise us.
I mean, I think there's probably a more than decent chance that Jerome Powell has been watching the sentiment on crypto Twitter and going, "Dang, these guys are suffering."
He's watching crypto Twitter on his alt account. He's just basically seeing these
Which
guys.
Which is not Jerome Powell.
Yeah, exactly. Not Jerome Powell, exactly. He's actually Jerome Powell. That's his alt account. And he's basically looking in there, and these guys, they need a break. Let me drop it 50 bips. But either way, depending on how, the monetary policy starts easing middle of September, we've obviously got some data points coming out this week, which we'll get to a bit later on. And that will give you indication of where do you think, how much he's going to cut by. And then liquidity will start flowing into the markets, and then potentially setting up the Uptober, which is, the up month and down for the Rektember,
That, I think, is the really important thing to remember when September begins. That yes, it is historically a bad month for crypto, but October is historically a very good month for crypto. Exactly. So you've just got to look ahead, think positive. Nick, with your sort of TradFi background, do you have? I mean, this is the September effect. So obviously, people sold in May and went away.
Yeah.
Is there any other kind of explanation for this September effect thing? Because, I mean, this seems to happen sort of so often that it can't just be a coincidence.
I mean, they've done some studies in it back in the day. It's obviously weighed a lot more in the olden days. Apparently, there's many factors. So apparently one of it, they're saving money and they're selling out to go and pay for school fees for the new school year. Apparently, that's how it originally started.
So it's the kids' fault.
Well, it's the kids' fault. Originally, back in 18th century Britain, when they had the early day stocks, the whole concept of sell in May, come away started because of that comeback on St. Leger's Day, actually.
Okay.
But historically, they've done analysis on it. There is an effect. Obviously, there's selling going, they look at their portfolios. They sell some of the stocks in their portfolios, tax loss as well, looking good for the next quarter. So they sell out of their worst performing equities so that they retain that and they've taken the profit there or the losses. So there is a slight impact on it, but I think that it's still like the jury's really out whether it's like something that is definitive,
Okay.
Because obviously there are outliers,
Okay. But it is, I mean, it is kind of a sort of regular phenomenon, isn't it? That September, I mean, you just need to look at that chart that we pulled up earlier. I think it's worth mentioning as well. So you mentioned those ETF flows that have not been great. I mean, not only has the ETH ETFs seen a net outflow, but I mean, it's a net outflow of just over $12.5 million, which suggests that volume is low AF, So I mean, that's pretty grim, whichever way you slice it.
It's pretty grim, yeah. It's not even. I think it's even worse than the massive outflows, to the extent that no one really gives a shit.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's in the fact that it came back to this point which you raised many times before, and people questioned before the ETH ETFs launched. Is like, and this is what's actually mentioned in the Coinbase report, is that it's been difficult to necessarily land a narrative or an elevator pitch to traditional investors around Ethereum's use cases, its demand factors, and its investment use case as compared to Bitcoin. I mean, so that's part of the reason why it's potentially lagged in terms of Bitcoin ETF flows. For this, for the past few months.
Okay, people just ain't buying it. Literally and
figuratively. Yes, they ain't buying it. They ain't buying that pitch.
Okay, a couple of other things worth mentioning as well, just before we move on. Miners, Bitcoin miners, are also having a tough time. Their revenues are down by about 100 million from last month, from July. That makes August the worst month since September 2023 for Bitcoin miners. And the difficulty is shooting up.
And some marginal miners are declaring bankruptcy. So those that have prepared for it, in terms of strong balance sheet listed companies are managing to survive. The marginal miners, NGMI.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough out there. One other thing worth mentioning as well is that Celsius has distributed $2.5 billion worth of, it's crypto and cash, right? as I understand.
It's 50%, about 50% crypto and cash.
Okay.
So it could be a net no impact, because obviously there's some question, okay, maybe some who get crypto may sell, in the case like Mt. Gox, or alternatively those who potentially get in cash, they may be crypto natives and they may want to buy crypto again. Much to the same effect that potentially people are looking at the FTX cash payments that will come in later this year. Could that be a boon for the market? Some people think it could.
I mean, I suppose there's a chance that Celsius customers getting their money back, that could be weighing on the markets to an extent. I mean, I don't think you could, if they're receiving crypto, you couldn't necessarily blame them for selling. But I mean, really, this is a good thing.
It's a good thing, yes.
Even if it is suppressing prices
exactly.
at the moment.
It's a good thing to know that it's been a long journey for them and the FTX creditors, and it's a good story. I just hope, just don't sell, guys. If you're an FTX and Celsius creditor, don't sell.
Not financial advice, obviously.
We can't have any more supply pressure, please. Don't join the German government, the US government.
And
just
everyone
don't
else.
add to that, please. Don't add it.
Okay, so that's finishing that story on a somewhat positive note, I suppose. Okay, so let's move on. So the next thing we were going to look at is some things at least are hitting all-time highs, stablecoin market caps and tokenized treasuries.
Exactly, yeah. So this is stablecoin market cap excluding, algorithmic stablecoins. Excluding.
So what? No UST.
No UST. Whatever happened to that?
Do you know?
I've
put it out of my mind, I think.
So there's no UST. This is stablecoins, centralized stablecoins, and it's hit an all-time high. And this could represent a few things. I mean, it could represent for more trading demand on the USDT side. Exchanges need USDT to match the pairs of the coins they've got on the exchange. It could also be people moving into the market in Asia, demand to use USDT for transactional demand. It could also be, like commerce, payment processors need USDT as well.
It could also be people selling their crypto.
Selling their Bitcoin and stabling in. Exactly,
Let's hope it's not that.
Hopefully it's not that. And USDC as well, it's also ranking up, and that's basically because of, usually it's USDC demand is driven by DeFi activities mentioned on the DeFi side. So obviously I've got some interesting charts here as well to share with you guys that I've pulled from Glassnode. The first this is the percentage of stablecoin market cap. And it's really fascinating to see how it's evolved over the past few years. And as you'll see back in even July 22, how close USDT and USDC were in terms of market cap. And now just look what happened there in March 23. I wonder what happened in there.
Don't.
Circle lost track of a few billions in a bank called Silicon Valley Bank. And ever since that time, USDT seems to be dominating. So that's interesting to see how the stablecoin landscape has evolved. And then we've also got another interesting chart, and this is obviously the accumulation phase of stablecoins. So you could see over the past few months, ever since January, or ever since before January, we've been in a accumulation phase of stablecoins. Picked up a lot into the March meme coin madness, and slowly picking up again. So it's good to see that that's hitting an all-time high. And then one more stablecoin, obviously PayPal's stablecoin. PYUSD. It's also hitting new all-time highs in terms of market cap, but
crushing it on Solana.
It's crushing on Solana. Not too good for ETH. In fact, ETH is even losing some of the market cap there.
Wow.
So, Solana, it seems like Solana is becoming one of the primary payment rails for stablecoins these days, if that trend continues.
Yeah. Payments just seems to be a big sort of narrative. Like, it's not the most glamorous of narrative, is it? Because, it doesn't have the sort of same, I guess, sexiness as something like Deepin or gaming. But
it's absolutely crucial to commerce. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and stablecoins obviously a massive part of that. Lots of people very, very bullish on stablecoins, but also tokenized treasuries.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's mostly as a result of BlackRock's Biddle Fund. So we've crossed over 2 billion. I think that treasuries are probably one of the best use cases for tokenizing real world assets. I've said this before. I think it's because they're a standardized, instrument that obviously is in high demand generally by all types of funds. And the main use case for RWAs is basically to trade in 24/7, not have to worry about market hours. So a standardized treasury, tokenized, can easily be traded on the weekends. And this is why we've seen so much demand for tokenized, treasuries. And BlackRock's Biddle Fund is leading that, and yeah, and it's hitting new all-time highs, and I think that this is obviously good for Ethereum because, hopefully, yeah. So because it's all been issued on Ethereum, right? Now most of it's been issued on Ethereum, although Avalanche is trying to also get into the RWA space with token subnets. But so it's good to see that at least there is a demand to use Ethereum in the RWA space.
Although, some demand for Ethereum.
It's good to see there's some demand for Ethereum, or at least base chain. At least, thank God they didn't issue the Biddle fund on it layer 2, because that would have been,
Ethereum would be having an even tougher time than
even tougher
is.
time. Yeah, even less demand for the base chain, and then also I think that we've also seen the and we've also seen the RWA platforms like Ondo Finance. You know, it's also gaining traction. But I think that when it comes to RWAs as a narrative, you can be bullish on the underlying platforms like Ethereum. Mm-hmm. But, in terms of RWA plays, I don't personally think that the RWA play space, some of these smaller, lower cap coins would have that much potential in the RWA scene.
And of course, there's still the question of regulations around RWAs as well. I mean, I think this is a field, this is a niche that a lot of people are getting excited about, and perhaps rightly so. There is a huge amount of potential, but until regulations catch up, then I think RWAs are going to be extremely risky because no one's really, we're not going to be able to get projects able to operate without some sort of clear regulatory guidelines. Otherwise, the SEC is going to pounce, as we will talk about in just a moment. But it's a good point, as you mentioned Ethereum, it's a good point to move on to our next story, which is, of course, continuing Ethereum FUD. Before we start, though, if you guys are enjoying the stream, let us know in the comments. If you're not enjoying the stream, let us know in the comments. We might even discuss it if you let us know in a creative sort of way. Creative criticism is what we like.
Constructive, as long as it's constructive.
If you want to make comments about Nick's appearance or
just
Nick in general.
Any appearance is fine, just not my hair or my legs.
There you go. Just solid comments about Nick's hair.
Nick,
Okay, so yes, please do leave a comment if you're feeling so inclined. Right, so Ethereum FUD continues. Now,
yes.
Is this bullish or is it bearish?
Well, it depends what side of the coin you look at it. Glass half full. As half full as those blocks. Glass half full or half empty. So obviously last week, what happened? Well, we had the news that the Ethereum Foundation was caught. I mean, they say caught.
I think that's a little disingenuous.
Be caught because they, like we discussed a bit earlier, it's difficult for them to. They're not, obviously there was disclosures. People wanted to see what are you moving such a large amount of ETH. So it was 100 million ETH that was moved to an exchange, and people are like, "What is going on? Why is this ETH being moved? What are you guys doing?" And then only after that did they, disclose exactly where the spending is going. It's a big amount. It's almost double than it was in 2021. And this is obviously, it's a good sign to a certain degree, the glass half full point, where potentially they're using these funds to work on development. Maybe they'll add sharding back onto the roadmap or something. So it's good to see they actually look to invest in the Ethereum ecosystem. But obviously the fact that, such a large amount of ETH is moved without disclosures, people, took issue with that.
I mean, I guess from the Ethereum Foundation's point of view, it's a little bit difficult because if they are looking to sell that ETH, then, particularly as it's a large amount, they don't want to sort of go, "Hey guys, by the way, we're about to sell some ETH.
We sell it in exactly an hour and 15 minutes. Get your shorts ready."
If you want to short it for the next, the next couple of hour time frame, then go for it. Aya Miyaguchi, whose I think tweet should be up on screen now. I mean, this is why this could be bullish rather than bearish. Obviously, the SEC was sniffing around the Ethereum Foundation not all that long ago, and Aya saying here that basically, that this regulatory scrutiny was causing them to sort of underspend. So that suggests that now that they are spending, that regulatory scrutiny is not an issue or not such an issue anymore. Which is good news.
I think there was even the SEC came out and sent a letter. I think this was about a month or two ago. The SEC came out and sent a letter, I believe, to Consensus around the questions around the ETH. It was not relation to early ETH, so proof of work ETH. So I think that questions around the Ethereum Foundation, the ICO, that's in the clear. But speaking of people who were catching strays, in the middle of the ETH melee, was poor Vitalik.
Poor Vitalik, he pokes his head above the parapet. He sort of comes down from on high on Farcaster, pokes his head above the parapet, makes a few opinions known and just starts catching it.
Yeah, exactly, catching the strays. And this was
Yeah.
the exact opinion. So he basically came out and kind of like took issue with DeFi, right?
Yeah.
And he compared it to Ouroboros, which is a snake that eats its own tail.
Yes.
This whole idea of rehypothecating yield and obviously just people chasing after yield in DeFi, and is it really the use cases we want, and all this kind of stuff, which, I think it's a reasonable argument, but
I think so.
But I think obviously many people within the DeFi ecosystem, are not happy with that, because obviously, there is an alternative argument to be made, and we were discussing this earlier as well, as in what does he think's happening in traditional finance, like rehypothecation of yield on Wall Street is massive business.
Yes, I mean there's all sorts of financial voodoo going on in TradFi and of course DeFi as well. But I mean, I kind of feel that, like, if you have this, I mean, the great promise of DeFi is that it should be inclusive, and it should bring in people, to the ecosystem who realize it's like, wow, I haven't been able to get a loan before. I haven't been able to get a loan through an entity that's not a bank, and suddenly finding that they can. And that's the amazing promise of DeFi. It can democratize finance a bit, and that's great. I think what Vitalik is getting at, and what I agree with him on, is that it's sort of lost its way a little bit. And at the moment, DeFi just seems to be much more preoccupied with these complicated restaking protocols, rehypothecation, all this sort of woo-woo sort of stuff, which is great, which is very clever, which a few degens will extract a lot of value from. But for me, that isn't really what DeFi is about. And I don't see how that is going to bring new people into the ecosystem, because they're going to go, right, okay, so you've got this thing, so I buy some ETH, I can deposit it in this protocol, and I can get this new kind of ETH, which I can then deposit again,
move it on,
stake again. It's I don't think that's it's hard enough for a lot of crypto natives to understand. I don't think it's going to attract new use cases to DeFi. So
I mean, it's a balance. There should be a balance. I think people should not be, condescended in the sense that they can't, involve themselves within yield generating strategies within DeFi, right? Because it's permissionless. I think people should have the opportunity to get yield wherever they see fit.
Yeah,
and it shouldn't just be the stomping ground of TradFi Wall Street to be able to generate yield. But it would be good to see more use cases that are related to actually onboarding the masses. So he has a fair point there, but
simplify it so as a dude in the sticks somewhere can get a loan for a new truck or something. Do you know what I mean? It's
exactly. Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be simple in order for the average man or woman to use it. Okay, so Vitalik caught some flack for that, for expressing opinions on DeFi. He was also selling some ETH as well. But I mean, that could be
donations. It could have been donations and everything. And to be fair, if there's one person I'm not going to begrudge selling some, it's Vitalik. At least it's going towards good causes rather than.
And he has donated a lot.
He has donated a lot, versus a lot of other founders who shall remain nameless, who've managed to exit very slowly with a slow rug and continue moving on. I just quickly want to, whilst we're on ETH, I want to share one more quick thing. And this is, we come back to the ETF demand. And I found this very interesting. So I tweeted about this. And this is from a K33 research report from last week. It's called, and basically it's looking at the ETH flows. So first of all, on the left hand there, you can see it's just been relatively flat cumulatively over the past few months. Like we were discussing earlier, there's been some inflows and then some massive outflows from Grayscale and the rest, and then it's just been flat. But what's more concerning is obviously on the right there, and that's the percentage of ETH flows as compared to Bitcoin on a weekly basis. In the first day 1 to 5, I think it is, you've seen, a massive amount of like 44% of Bitcoin inflows were the ETH inflows compared to what Bitcoin did in the first 5 days. But you can see as we progress over the next few days and weeks and months, it's trending much lower. And that trend is not good. That trend does not look good. So it's basically the extent that, and Bitcoin flows have slowed a lot also over the past month. So if that trend continues on a lower percentage basis and Bitcoin itself flows have decreased over the past, month, who knows what Ethereum ETF flows will look like by the end of this month. I mean, I hope it reverses. It's a question of the narrative, if people are going to buy it, and then liquidity. But also, so that's a really interesting chart. And by the way, guys, if you don't know about K33 Research, they're a really interesting research shop. I've been following them for quite a few years. We also have a discount for Coin Bureau Club members of 50% off. So you obviously get that as a bonus for being a Coin Bureau Club member, which is only one of the many things we offer there as well.
One of many wonderful things available at Coin Bureau Club, which we will come back to. And you did a good interview with one of the guys from K33.
Yeah, the head of the head analyst, Bettler Lunder, the guy actually developed this report as well. So yeah, that's about 3-4 months ago.
Yeah. Okay, so that is Ethereum's continuing problems. It's tough out there for ETH. Someone else who's had it tough recently is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But he seems to have gone back to 2021 because he's releasing
NFT release.
He's releasing NFTs and a DeFi platform.
Yeah, and it's on Polygon. Gone back to 2021.
Wow, real 2021 vibes. So this is Donald Trump, his 4th NFT collection.
Yeah.
It is titled Series 4, the America First Collection. Do you know he's made so far he's made around $7 million from NFTs
in total for over 4 collections
so far? Yeah,
wow,
so far.
Okay.
This one hasn't been all that successful. Only around 6% of the collection has sold so far. I mean, I guess someone should probably have told him that NFTs are really just not so hot right now.
Maybe too many people are interested in buying NFTs when dancing to village people. But that's one of the things.
We are living in a simulation.
Yeah, we live in a simulation. But he does try to create utility for it. If you recall his previous NFT collection, you could go to Mar-a-Lago. Invite Mar-a-Lago as a gala dinner and stuff.
And that got a lot of crypto people in.
Yeah, a lot. Exactly. Yeah, that's how it got his whole pro crypto pivot. Apparently, was because of people being there, pro crypto people, as part of his NFT collection. And it was actually funny because there's a guy called Vallejo, who obviously is a DeFi founder in the Cosmos ecosystem. He was the actual owner of the NFT that he gave to Ryan Selkis, who went there. Basically, as a fortuitous way for Ryan Selkis to go and pitch the good word of crypto to Trump.
Yeah,
back then a few months ago. Maybe there is utility in these NFT collections.
Maybe,
but what I don't think has utility, and which I'm more bearish on, is this high yield project he has launched called World Liberty. What's it called? World
Liberty Financial.
World Liberty Financial.
That sounds to me like a 3 words address.
High yield DeFi. HYIP, high yield investment platform, which is going to involve some, get DeFi yield and give it to the people. Maybe he'll introduce like a tiered system where you can refer a friend and then your friend refers, kind of like a typical
tiered. Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, this is, this seems to be a bit of an odd thing. I mean, the NFTs, I guess I can, understand he's done them before. They've obviously worked for him before. And it seems to be sort of fairly easily done. And it's obviously raising money for his campaign. This launching a high yield DeFi protocol when he's got so much else going on seems to me to be a little bit of sort of distracting, taking his eyes off the prize.
I mean, I think it's his son's Eric Trump. I think that's it was his. He wanted to think about an interesting project he could launch. I'm surprised he did that instead of like tokenized real estate or something.
And what is Eric Trump's experience in DeFi? dare I ask?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm not too bullish on that one, to be honest. You probably get flack from Gary. Gary may come out to the woodwork.
Well, I mean, given what he said about Gary Gensler, given that if Trump wins, then Gary Gensler is apparently on borrowed time. Then this might give him the perfect, give Gary the perfect line of attack.
Well, it was just after the NFT, just after his NFT launch, actually, Gary Gensler came out and sued OpenSea. Or not sued OpenSea, they gave them a Wells notice. When the Wells notice is obviously, basically, it's like most cases, 80% of the cases, 80 to 90% of the cases, once you get a Wells notice, you get sued. And this is to OpenSea, right? So
Talk about kicking someone when they're down.
And it's obviously the question. Apparently, the NFT, SEC's mandate is to protect investors. Investor protection. So they should have come out in 2021. And people were buying $1 million for a JPEG and protected them now. Now it's basically literally the meme. The SEC standing there, and it's like all the knives.
Oh yeah, flying at the
person.
Child.
So yeah, it's just what is the SEC doing here? Really, like it's just who's this benefiting? And poor OpenSea, they used to be valued at $14 billion.
Wow.
And
do you know what they're valued at now?
Apparently, I know inside in terms of like the revenues they're generating and the earnings multiples they had back then and what it was valued at back then. I think probably valuation now is around 100 million or so.
Wow.
Based on potential earnings and stuff like this. So, it's fallen a hell of a lot since then. So I don't know what this is going to mean for OpenSea. It's obviously also cast a pall across the SEC space. I'm not SEC, the NFT space, because basically what it means is there was no, in the case of Coinbase versus SEC versus Coinbase or Binance, when they sued them for securities broken, the same thing they're doing here, they at least listed the assets, the cryptocurrencies they thought were securities. Whereas in this case, they haven't really listed that. So now there's people thinking and wondering what NFT collections could have been NFTs.
Yeah.
Some most likely would have been securities, which could have been securities. Some no doubt would have been securities based on the Howey law, but we don't know which ones. So it's unfortunate. It's also just the SEC is still on a warpath. It seems like no matter what's happening, it's not the best timing, obviously, because they now become very political. But it just shows that unless things change dramatically, or unless there's, the Harris campaign comes out with explicit plans around what they're going to do for regulations, it doesn't look good for what's going to be happening for future regulations from the SEC with the Harris presidency.
Is this Gary looking for a win?
Yeah,
looking for a late win, because the SEC have not had the best of it with these legal actions.
Yeah, I think Gary's kind of like thinking to himself, the writing's on the wall. I may just go and do what I can. Spray and pray. Yeah.
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 I don't know if you guys have got the Protos article there, but this is I do recommend taking a read of this, because it explains quite well sort of what's going on here. It's like this idea that the SEC is necessarily saying that NFTs themselves are securities is misleading, apparently. I'll quote you from the article, but it says, "What matters is not the item, but the promises, financial projections, and economic realities of the sale. The offer, not the asset, creates the investment contract." So I think what the SEC is doing here is, it's not necessarily saying NFTs themselves are securities, but the fact that some NFTs might be securities because they've been offered as part of an investment contract. And that obviously ties into what you were saying with the Howey test, and an expectation of profit coming from a third party. So I do recommend taking. We'll leave a link to that article below. I do recommend taking a read of it, because it does. It is very good. It's a bit of a sort of not very well understood area. So as I see it from this article, it's not necessarily that all NFTs themselves are securities, but some might be. But it depends on the terms of the particular investment contract.
One other thing that's different here as well, with regards to other exchanges that have been hit with these security accusations, is that OpenSea was never custodial.
Right.
So that's interesting as well. It's like they've been offering securities as a securities broker, when they're in a non-custodial marketplace, right? Although, yes, they did earn fees, and, they were listing fees and things like that. It was different to the cases of exchanges. So, SEC spraying and praying.
Yeah. All right. So it's a recurring headline, that SEC sues sends Wells notice to insert name here. Yeah. Okay, so those are the big news stories that we wanted to go over. So that's the sort of first section done. If you like, let's move on. We're going to look at the top performing cryptos of last week. Spoiler alert, there weren't many.
Only two. Are they still up? Hopefully they're still up.
I think they were. They were last time I checked, only just. We got a suggested read for you, some dates for your diary, some tweets of the week, and we'll have the top comments put in the stream so far. So the top performers are, just for those who are curious, this is how we do the top performers. We go to CMC, we select top gainers over the last 7 days from the top 100. And filter it via that, and that gives us, and then we pick usually the top 5. Unfortunately, there are only 2.
Well,
when I
right
check.
now, Litecoin's just
Oh,
eked a gain,
Litecoin is up.
a weekly gain of 0.36%.
Hold the stream, everyone. Litecoin.
This is
Litecoin
breaking
is up.
news, guys. Breaking news. 0.36%. Litecoin
Wow.
is up on the week. What is
Okay.
going on, guys? Why is it pumping?
We better scrap everything. Okay, so the other two big gainers of this week were Helium, HNT, and Monero, which is an old favorite of yours.
Old favorite of mine.
Good to see an old school crypto doing well there. Helium, I did a bit of digging into that. There were a couple of HIPS, Helium improvement proposals passed, 130 and 131. Quite technical, so I'm not sure whether they really had a massive effect. It just seems to me that Helium is doing well. It just has a lot of mind share at the moment. It's riding the kind of deep in wave. It's
been doing well over the past few weeks as well. And I think that also, on a tokenomics perspective, Helium operates a mint and burn with the HNT token to buy data credits. Maybe more people want to utilize the network as well, mobile plans and stuff like that. But we're actually doing an updated Helium video review, which will be with you guys, I think, next week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Hopefully we can dive into exactly what's causing this renewed interest in Helium. Definitely it's part of the deepen narrative. And it's one of the few deepens, I think, projects right now that's seen actual adoption and actual use cases and globally.
People using it, and they've signed some partnerships that actually seem to be going places. They're not, you know how crypto projects are with sort of these big flashy partnerships, and then they turn out to be complete BS. Well, in this case, it doesn't seem so much the case. It looks like Helium is actually working with these big mobile carriers, so there could be exciting things ahead. That I think is why HNT is doing well. I think a few Coin Bureau team members hold HNT. Full disclosure. Monero. Any reason why?
No real reason right now that can be seen. I think that potentially it's around this whole privacy narrative, what's happening with Pavel's arrest, the whole idea of looking to buy into cryptocurrencies that have strong encryption, and the premier privacy coin is Monero. I think it's, despite the fact that it's had struggles with regards to exchange delistings over the past few years, something that the governments obviously want to really clamp down on privacy coins. Monero has remained relatively resilient. It's never been broken or cracked. It's it's one of the, I think it's the premier privacy coin, and it's the reason they're so scared about it is because obviously of all this, it's such a strong encryption and privacy and by default that works well for Monero. It's also the fact that it's now still listed on some big exchanges, right? So it's on KuCoin and Kraken, right? Yeah. Although about 2 years ago, I think it was a year or two ago, Kraken delisted Monero from its UK pairs.
Yes, I remember that.
So the question is it still going to consider it for its other trading pairs? As the governments will get more stringent on this, one has to wonder. But either way, it's good to see that Monero is showing some green, and that people coming back to like realizing the importance of privacy and privacy and encryption, especially with Pavel's arrest, right?
I think that's been the catalyst, hasn't it? That's kind of really reminded people that there are sort of overtly hostile governments out there who want to know all about what you're up to.
Exactly. Yeah.
XMR obviously has the tech on its side. Has the sort of privacy narrative on its side. The only thing that really seems to be counting against it is the fact that those exchange delistings, the ones that have happened and the ones that could yet happen. So that's I guess the thing to be concerned about where XMR is concerned. Okay, we now have, I think we might have mentioned this earlier, a suggested read. This is we were going back to DeFi that we were talking about earlier. This is a real OG, Andre Cronje. One of your countrymen.
One of my countrymen, yes.
Famous for Yearn Finance and for Phantom,
and a few other projects as well. Yeah. So
prolific.
He's a DeFi OG for sure, and I think apparently he also is based in Dubai. I don't know. I've heard that as well.
Okay.
It's a really fascinating quote. That we've got here? If you guys can pull up this quote.
So this is from a Medium post that he published. I think it was last week or over the weekend. And it's just called "Why DeFi," and I think it makes a really good sort of simple case. It kind of ties into what I was ranting on about earlier. I think this is a good sort of companion piece to Vitalik's tweets on it as well.
Yeah, I think I saw some commentary runners, like some people said, thanks to Andre Cronje for pitching the use case and demand for Ethereum more than Vitalik could ever do. So credit to him.
Yeah. So I'll just read out this quote. This is a good one. DeFi doesn't care. DeFi doesn't judge. Everyone is treated the same based on the rules of the system, and the rules are public and transparent for everyone to see. Got your home loan declined from a traditional bank? You probably don't even know why. Loan declined in DeFi? You know exactly why.
Yeah.
I think that puts it really well.
Permissionless, transparent, and everyone's allowed to use it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So do have a read of that. It's 5 minutes, so well worth your time. Okay, Nick, dates for diary.
Dates for diary this week. Obviously, it's going to be generally a slow week, but there's 2 important dates, and these are around macro conditions, obviously, as it relates to potentially Fed, positioning, because these are related to the US job market. On Wednesday, we've got the JOLTS job openings, and then on Friday, we've got the US unemployment for August. And these are important numbers because obviously, depending on what it's looking like in the US job market, it then will impact on Powell's decision of how much he wants to cut in the September meeting. Because if you recall from the Jackson Hole meeting, he said he was a lot more worried around the labor front. And
I think he spoke about sort of labor conditions in the labor market more than he did.
Quote, we do not welcome worsening in the labor condition. Typical Fed speak. We do not welcome worsening labor conditions. Well, no one welcomes that. We don't welcome that. No one likes to lose their job, Jerome.
Yeah.
And this is obviously also remember about 2 weeks ago we had the revision to the unemployment numbers.
Yes.
So from the 818K on the non-farm payrolls, which obviously is softer employment numbers than were expected. These are important numbers to check, and then it will potentially impact obviously on the one mandate of the Fed's dual mandate, which is the employment one, because obviously last week we had PCE numbers, which is the Fed's preferred inflation measure. They came in at about expectations. So right now it's all looking at what's going on with the labor market. So it'll be interesting to see how the probabilities adjust for the Fed Watch tool as well post these labor disclosures.
There's so much delicious, juicy macro data around at the moment, isn't there? Sink your teeth into, but it's all important.
Have a cup of coffee with your macro podcast, in the mornings.
Exactly. Life just doesn't get any better than that. Okay. Well, speaking of life getting better, it's about to get way better because we're going to look at tweets of the week.
Cool.
So who's up first? This is.
Let's see. Steve.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, crypto owners, research finds crypto owners are psychopaths. And I was like, me and Guy were chatting about this earlier. We're like, well, last week we discovered that crypto as a hobby was one of the least attractive hobbies to women in men. And this week we learned we're psychopaths. So, great to know. Great to be a crypto user.
It's not looking good, bruv.
It's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good.
Yeah. Unattractive incel psychopaths. That's what we all are, apparently.
Yeah.
It
is cherry picking data. Apparently, there was other more endearing qualities in the data.
Crypto holders display lower levels of analytic and scientific thinking. Lower levels of analytic thinking. Have you spent any time on crypto Twitter? The whole thing is charts and analysis. Well, when it's not shit.
Well, when it depends when it's around meme coins and which.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to question that. But not looking good. Not looking good.
Okay, so that's Steve Hanke. Next tweet is from Shitcoin Safari.
Great username, bro. Great username.
And a great tweet as well.
Yeah.
Ton dropped 30% in 12 days. ETH dropped 40% in 13 days without the founder being arrested.
What's funny is like people are blaming Vitalik. Apparently he's got a girlfriend now. So they're blaming that on the reason they are apparently on crypto Twitter. So, you can get arrested. It's not going to tank your coin that much, but get a
girlfriend. Which is hard enough because you're a psychopath incel.
And you have a hobby of crypto.
Yeah. I mean,
Funko Pop is the only thing that's least interesting in crypto.
Wow. So
stamp collecting, it's actually less interesting than stamp collecting. By the way, that's another thing.
I didn't even know people still did stamp collecting. Well. Okay, so next one is from Pop Punk. This is great.
This is a good one.
I think this is a big step forward to combating the threat from North Korea.
Yeah, the spearfishing North Koreans. This is actually interesting because there's been quite a few crypto projects that have been spearfished by North Korean hackers who have actually posed as looking for a job. in crypto and smart contract engineers, etc. And there've been a few cases where projects have actually been hacked from within, from a team breach, because there were these North Korean hackers. So this guy's found a foolproof method to basically ask someone as a question if you potentially think they could be a North Korean hacker. And that says, okay, so please send me your resume, Twitter, and GitHub. Furthermore, please say, I hate Kim Jong-un, fuck North Korea. And I mean, the guy disappeared. So,
how are they going to get around that?
What a great litmus test,
Yeah. Could they make some sort of capture out of it that they have to complete? You have the grid of 9 and then
target in the middle of Kim Jong-un. And
you have to, 3 of them have Kim Jong-un's face, and you have to place a sort of sniper scope over the 3 of them. That'll weed them out. Okay, so another great tweet. And last tweet of the week is from Nate Geraci. 1 year ago today, Grayscale prevailed in their lawsuit against the SEC. Only reason why spot BTC and ETH ETFs exist. Seems like a decade ago. It does, doesn't it? A year?
Yeah, it's just only a year. But, credit to Grayscale. It's obviously, it hasn't been good for them after that. But, they were the ones who actually stood up and fought. And this case obviously was the reason why we now have these ETFs. If I recall that basically, they beat the SEC and laid the groundwork for it. So we need to give them credit when it's due.
They really took one for the team.
They took one for the team.
They took on the lawsuit and obviously all the dangers that came with that if it hadn't gone their way.
Yeah.
And they won the lawsuit. Basically, their flagship product is being turned to.
Turned to dust. Yeah, well, I mean, they've launched the mini futures and all that, which have got lower fees, but people are more interested in BlackRock's and the other ETF providers. So,
yeah. Okay, so that was tweets of the week, and now we will just go through some of the wonderful comments that you guys have added during the stream. So Nicholas Legnard says, "Guys, bullish or bearish on FOMC this month?"
I mean, I think
does bullish mean 50 basis points and bearish mean 25? We're pretty much guaranteed a rate cut. I think it's
guaranteed a rate cut. Market's pricing that. If we don't, then that's super bearish. I mean, I think it's going to happen. I mean, Jerome said it. There's no reason he wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's bullish or bearish. Potentially, I think it's probably just going to be flat, right?
Yeah, and I think
expectations.
I think it's probably priced in.
It's probably very much priced in, very much so. Yeah.
Neither bullish nor bearish, just a bit meh. But I mean, long term, it's good news.
Long term, it's good news because it's the pivotal moment. Obviously, it's a pivotal.
Okay, Simon J. Stewart hit on the reason why we didn't start bang on time. Nick holding up filming due to bicep curls. Yeah, I know.
I got to pump up before my videos.
Everyone
bloody
week
mentions it like I do. Yeah. I mean, just from the gym, straight from the gym.
It's so unprofessional. So unprofessional.
You got to go. The guy at the gun show, man. You got to. They signed up for tickets to the gun show. I got to give it to him.
Okay. So what else have we got here? Let's have a look. I like someone this was picking up. Telling someone to sell or not is in fact financial advice. Genius. Yes, thank you very much. It's not financial advice. Yeah. Should always be clear. Renaissance Man says the deadly duo is back at it again. Is that a compliment? Are we just
deadly
being
duo?
Yeah, deadly duo?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that as a compliment.
Back at it
Thank
again.
you, Renaissance Man, Eric. Okay, so we've got a question here. Let's look at this around Deepin. Love P says Deepin fire. With global censorship issues, Deepin will show the world the true power of crypto. Thinking of HNT, anyone AKT utility stuff that can't be censored and make daily life better.
Yeah. So we just talked about HNT. Yeah.
And Deepin in general. I mean, when we covered, there was a real sort of light bulb moment for me a few months ago when we covered Masari's Deepin report.
Yeah.
And it was, it's not only was this, is this a sector that has a use case that people can understand, but crucially, I think, and this I think is really important, is that it's not finance related.
Yeah, it's not.
So
exactly.
I think, regulators can I don't think they're going to go after Deepin, or I'll cover my arse here and say I think there's less of a chance regulators will go after Deepin because it doesn't have that sort of finance angle.
Exactly, yeah, and I think and the use cases, of course, in terms of especially in the case of HNT Helium, we just talked about it, like providing coverage to people. We've also done reviews on the club for World Mobile. It's another one which is trying to bring coverage in Africa and regions that don't have internet. You know?
Great.
So,
It's a great. I hold
yeah.
some World Mobile.
You hold it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay, cool.
good sort of helium beta play,
Hedge beta play,
if
yeah,
you like.
yeah.
But yeah, really good project, doing good things. Something else that's doing good things is Nick's wig. Chris
Jesus.
Perkins says it's looking good today.
Bro, I said anything.
He has
but hair
different ones of
comments,
different
please.
lengths,
Yeah,
and he changes
exactly.
them.
Change them to different videos. Me and Jess interchange them.
Yeah. Oxford Row Coach, welcome back, Oxford Row Coach. Always good to see you. Guy is brilliant at looking into camera when speaking. He needs to know where to fix his gaze when the director changes camera shot. I'm working on it, Oxford Row Coach. I'm doing my best. There's a lot of cameras
going on. Yeah.
There's a lot going on in here, but I'll work on it. I'll work on it for next time. I promise.
He's looking at himself, actually.
I'm
just
admiring
his. Who's that handsome chap out there?
Fresh haircut.
Who's that handsome British chap?
Exactly. God, another handsome Brit there. Okay. Alex says, do you guys think BTC can go below 40K before this bull run? At the risk of having to eat my words, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No. I don't think so. I think it will hold up. It could dip. It could
dip below. It could dip below
50.
Yeah, but I mean the amount. I mean, especially when think about it from the supply side of it, right? A lot of the supply has already come. Mt. Gox selling like at least 60% has already gone out, I think.
Yeah.
So yes, the U.S. government potentially, but there's no indication they're definitely going to sell. Some of the supply overhangs are clearing out, and of course liquidity coming in with the Fed pivot. So it's not likely to want to take it below that number.
Yeah. Okay, Red 007 says the SEC are like the police who show up after all the bad things have already happened. Yeah, exactly. Good point, well made. And Shamis says, hey Guy, why everyone's still trying to analyze crypto market based on historic data? How relevant are these with the ETF approval and all? Yes, it's a good question because as we've talked about a lot, like the ETFs have changed the game.
They have changed the game.
Well, certainly the spot Bitcoin ETFs have that camera.
Yeah.
But whether or not the spot, I mean, the volume on the spot ETH ETFs is so low, it's not. The jury's still out on that one.
But, I mention it, yeah.
But as far as historic data goes, I mean, this is generally all that we have to work with. So we have to look at past cycles.
More likely than not. And it's also the fact that it is generally a low liquidity month. Right. And that's a factor, right? And there are these supply overhangs. So it's historically, yes, but then there's also the factors we mentioned around the supply side and lack of demand right now until we actually see a pivot and people actually getting back into the markets. So the summer holiday, people are coming back from their summer holiday now, right? It's this whole about halfway through the month, that we start seeing the pivot. So it's going to take some time.
Yeah. Should also comment on, I've seen a few people asking in the comments about the Cardano. Obviously, the Chang hard fork went ahead yesterday. I think we flagged this up in last week's weekly news, but I might have said it was happening sooner than it was, but I think it went ahead yesterday. This is mostly related to governance and a few other improvements, but that seems to so far have gone smoothly. Great, so congratulations to Charles and the rest of the team at Cardano. Onwards and upwards. Hen has, I know you're a fan of AVAX, Nick. Thoughts on AVAX going into Q4?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, there's a lot of AVAX being traded in the OTC market as well. There's a lot of big buyers interested in it. I know that because I did an interview with an OTC broker, by the way, guys, which is on CoinBureau Clip. So go and check that out. It's very interesting to see what's going on behind the scenes. But also, in terms of AVAX, I think that they diversifying as well with demand, as I mentioned earlier, with regards to RWAs potentially issuing subnets, gaming as well. So it's if you're looking at narrative plays, if you're bullish on potentially gaming or RWAs, then Avalanche is one of those because they're issuing on these subnets, and these subnets there's more demand for the subnets, more demand for AVAX to lock it up, to stake within these subnets. Potentially, if it's a gas token within the subnets, more demand for AVAX. So I think I still hold AVAX in my personal portfolio. I'm still bullish on it, and I think it's a good diversification if you're bullish on these particular narratives.
Okay. There you are. I hope that answers your question, Hen. Okay. Well, we've had so many good questions today. I want to finish on an absolute low point, which is this pun from Mere Mortals Book Reviews. If crypto ever fails, will you become gynecologists? It's so bad. It's so bad. I had to flag it.
Oh, bro. Wow.
And on that note,
how did you come up with that in the stream? I mean, he must have had known that. Because that's an amazing comment.
Listen, you're watching a Coin Bureau Monday live stream. You're already a gigabrain. You're already switched on. You know what it's about. This sort of stuff just comes.
He needs
to
to
you.
come and be our writer for and disclaimers.
Yeah,
and stuff,
he
needs to be our deal insert writer. We need to hire him.
Come and write for us, mere mortals book reviews. You're wasted reviewing books if that is indeed what you do. Wonderful. Closing with a pun. How very British. Okay, I think that's it for this week, folks. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy these news live streams. Please do leave your feedback in the comments if you haven't already. Let us know how you're enjoying these. We are constantly sort of tweaking them, making them better. It's very much a work in progress.
More hardware coming. Hopefully, the camera issues will be sorted by next week. If you have any,
you'll be able to see us
fancy, because I saw the commentary last week that someone needs to strap the camera, the mic because I'm always moving around and stuff. So we got these fancy podcast mic arms now. So fancy.
I mean, this is basically this sort of similar setup to what the crypto bros have.
Yeah.
And we admire those guys so much that
we need to bring them on for one of these one day.
I've got both on Telegram, so I'll.
One is in Bali. He's still in Bali.
Oh, really?
Chadwick, he's still in Bali. So,
okay. Okay. Well, we'll get the crypto bros back at some point. But yeah, lots more to come from these live streams, folks. So please do keep your feedback coming in. Please do keep watching. Please do keep spreading the word and stay crypto as well.
Wag me, guys. Wag me.
Wag me. All right.
Cheers.
Okay. See you soon.